I'm the man, boy. I'm the man, boy. I'm a old sender with the upper hand, boy. Shit don't know what's pan out this way.
What's up, guys? Today we're going to be changing out the fuel tank vent breather valve and the injectors on my S65 V8 engine on the E93 M3. The reason why is because we got a little bit of a rough idle and the car is over 100,000 miles, so it's time to change them out. These are the Bosch branded injectors. They're OEM, they're the actual ones that are in the V8 engine itself, but they don't have the BMW stamp. You can get these for $25 each, so $200 total, which is a good deal for injectors. This is the fuel tank vent breather valve. This one is also OEM Bosch brand. Here's the part number for that. And here's the part number for the injectors. So you may be asking, why replace the injectors? Well, the reason being is I'm over 100,000 miles. I'm also running E85 using my flex fuel power module from APE. So sometimes I notice when I'm running full throttle at high RPMs, the injector duty cycle maxes out and I'm only running like E40 or E50 blend of ethanol. So I want to replace these injectors not only for reliability concerns, but also to possibly reduce the injector duty cycle and how hard they're working, because they are a little old. Another thing is there's this recent news on Facebook groups and M3 forums about the engine hydrolocking because the injectors get stuck open and flood the engine and the piston with fuel. So I've already done the rod bearings. I don't want my engine to hydrolock because of faulty injectors. I'm going to change those out preemptively. First step, remove the air box, the bottom part of it, and the intake plenum. I already have the cowl filter, or the cowl off. I have a cowl delete with BMS filters on my engine, so I have a lot of access in the back here. If you want to remove your cowl filter or your cowl itself to kind of help you with this job, I think it'll help out a little, and it's not too many bolts or it's not too many extra steps to take it off. But just know that it'll be a little easier for me because I have that off already. Next thing is move the coolant expansion tank, two 10mm bolts, and we can move this kind of out of the way so we have access to all of the individual throttle body clamps. Next course of action is to take this off. So you push this clip in and then pull down, and that connector comes right off. And that just allows you to get the plenum off. So these little clamps here, those ones, there's 8 of them, and we need to take them all out there. Kind of, the 2 front ones are easier to access. The 2 back ones, you're gonna have to use a combination of extensions and swivels to be able to get to them. Also have a good flashlight or a torch light to be able to kind of see, because those back ones are pretty dark. So I'm gonna use a 6mm socket to get to these with a swivel extension, about 12-inch extension. So it's right over there. Very hard to see, but that's the angle I'm gonna go through, right over there. Got it. Okay. This side is done. There's one. Two. So that last one in the back, I'm gonna get it from this angle right over here. It's hard to see, but if you kind of bend in the right angle, you can get it from here. All right, I got it. All you gotta do now is just kind of lift and pop open all those individual throttle body holes, and they'll just come right off now that everything's loose. We do have one more thing to detach, and it's in the very back over here. It's one of these style where you push it in and you pull it out. It's in the back underneath this side. All right, here we go. Good. Kind of just gently wiggle it off first. So it's right over there. That little hose right there, you just gotta squeeze that and get that hose off, and then we can take the plenum off. All right, so that last pipe is off now. I forgot there's one more pipe left, and it's underneath the plenum over here. It's this one, so right over there. Again, it's just one of those squeeze clips where you squeeze it and then you can take it out. So let me do that real quick for y'all, and then we can take this plenum off. All right, so I got that one off right here. Now we can take this thing off. Whew. This is what it looks like with it off. This is a good chance to also do your throttle actuators, both of them, because they are accessible now, along with secondary air pump, idle control valve, and there is our fuel tank vent breather valve. Here's your 8 individual throttle bodies. You can cover them up, or just try to avoid putting any or getting any bolts or nuts in there, because the engine swallows that up. It's toast. So we have access to the fuel lines or the fuel rails along with each injector. Here are our injectors right here. So let's go get them off now. What we're gonna do next is we're going to disconnect the fuel line here. So yours is gonna look different because I have a flex fuel module, and here is the flex fuel or E85 sensor that connects here. But for you, you're going to have a quick disconnect clip where you have to use a special tool, a fuel line disconnect tool, to get it out. And I have the video on my E85 install on how to get that original clip out. But for me, I'm just going to disconnect my line here by kind of pinching these 2 buttons here and then pulling out. So I disconnected my fuel line from the sensor over here, which connects to the fuel rail line over there and onto here. When I did that, a little bit of fuel came out, but it's not a lot, so just a little bit comes out. Make sure you do this with the engine stone cold so that there's no risk of a fire. Now we are ready to disconnect the fuel rail. There's a Torx bit right there, one right here, one right there as well. Okay, so those are E90 bolts for the fuel line. So just kind of wiggle and these will come off. There you go. There's an O-ring that situates them inside. So wiggle to get them off nice and slowly. This is also a good time to disconnect the wires from your injectors. So just straight up pulling them out seems to be the easiest way to get them off. There you go. Alright, so we got a wire that's clipped into the fuel rail. I'm gonna unclip that. And we've got our fuel rail off. Alright, so these are injectors at 100,000 miles, 107,000 to be exact. They're held on with these clips right here. Alright, so we got the clip out. Mine is stuck pretty good in there, so use a little bit of persuasion to get it out. Once you do, a little bit of fuel comes right out, so just be careful with that. Here's one injector off. Now, remember the orientation of where the plug or the power adapter goes, so that when you reinstall it the correct way. Same thing with these clips here. So I'm just setting it down the way that it came in. So this is what the new injectors look like. They come with this plastic cap that you just pull out. And there's your O-ring that connects to the fuel line. Just put a very small amount of oil on the O-ring, just enough to slide it in without tearing or misplacing that O-ring. Same thing with this brown O-ring when it comes back into the engine block, but just a very small, minute amount. Now we've got all the injectors on. We're going to be very careful with our injector tips to not bang them on anything. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna get one side in first, make sure that it's in the pocket, and then you can do the other side. There's a little flexi hose here, so you can kind of move it around a little bit as needed to get it to the right spot. So I'm gonna start on the driver's side first here. Make sure that I get it in nice and slow. Here's our E30 Torx. I'm gonna do hand tight and a quarter turn. Now we just gotta plug in our injector wiring. For my case, it's the E85 Flex Shield kit. And then we also gotta re-plug in your fuel line, which for me goes back into my ethanol sensor. So we got all of the injector wires back in. Now let's tackle the breather valve for the fuel tank. So what you need to do is cut off this clamp here and then remove this hose in the back. And then you need to take this power clip out, or this wire. And then there's a little grommet on the bottom that you can slide it out with. Alright, so I got my connector off. There's a little screw right there that looks like maybe a T25 or a T30. We're gonna take that off and then see if we can get this. Alright, so the back side of this broke off while I was trying to get this part out. So that is stuck in there now. Can't get that out anymore. So what I'm going to do is cut off this hose and then put a new fuel hose that I'm going to connect from here to my new replacement part. Alright, so we got this old piece out. Alright, there's my new connection. Now it's time to cut this shorter. Let's see if it fits in. Yeah, pretty good. I just gotta tie in that last piece, that last clamp in here. That'll connect it again. So, good save. So now it's time to cut this clamp off. This is really stuck on there, so I'm gonna have to cut this off too. It just the way it is today. So here we go. Make my cut. And here's the old one. Destroyed. Oh yeah, I'm gonna remove this bracket so that I can put it on the new one. Yep, this one fits. Okay, let's put this in. See if I can get this one on. Nope, barely. Okay, now you just put the grommet in place right over there. Now we can plug in our connector here. Check for any pinched hoses. We're good here. Bottom side is good. Alright guys, so we got the fuel tank vent valve in. We've got our new injectors on. We are ready to put the plenum back on. So here it is. So before you put the plenum back on, make sure you check all of the throttle bodies and make sure there's nothing in there, no bolts or dirt or sleeves or anything. Just make sure they're all clean and ready to go. Now let's get that hose in place in the back. Alright, so now that we have that back hose already connected, we can start to push down the plenum evenly on each corner until you feel all of the holes sit in. So I'll start here, and then here, and then the very back. and it almost feels like a little plop or pop. All right, now we can tighten the clamps, which is the annoying part, but again, same angles that you used before to take it apart. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a screwdriver and do the final tightening. The hose down here, I'm going to plug that in to the port underneath the plenum. Just pull it until you feel a click or hear a click. Now I'm going to put my, this is my E85 injector wires, so you're not going to have this one unless you have a kit. I'm just going to tuck it underneath. Next thing is this cord right here. Just plug it in. It'll click right into place. Okay, that one's in. And I have a zip tie here, just mainly for my injector wires to tuck them in, that's all. Yours won't have the zip tie here either. Okay, so we got that connection on the bottom, this connection right here, and then the connection in the back for the plenum. So this is all done. We got to put our coolant tank back in place. This goes into the grommet, and then we'll bolt it in. Check my coolant, make sure I'm still good. Yep, still okay on coolant. Now we need to get our air box back on the elbow and this tube. Alright, so everything is put back together, for me at least. For you, you'd still have to put back your cowl and your cowl filter. Next step is to prime the engine with some fuel in the rail and then give it a start and hope it works. What you need to do is get into the car. Don't put your foot on the brake, just push the start button twice to put it into ignition on mode, and we'll cycle that on about 3 times. All right, so here's the first cold start. Let's hope there's no check engine light. That's it so far for the injector and fuel tank vent valve DIY guide. The car is running and idling smoothly. I do have a cold start delete on the car so that it's not too loud when I don't want to bother my neighbors here. If you want to see more M3 content, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you very much.